I'd like to say a very big welcome to all of you as we look forward to an evening that changes the narrative about the way we celebrate in our society here in Ghana. The Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Lord and Lady Justices of the Supreme and Higher Courts of our nation, Nananom, Ministers of State, Deputy Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, friends from the academia, the Vice Chancellor, and the Academic Board of the University of Professional Studies, clergy, friends aspiring to serve at the bar and at the bench, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure this evening to welcome all of you to an evening of reflection on achievement, reflection on how we redefine service to country. Before I go ahead to say anything extra, I believe that it's a good time to inspire ourselves with Yema Asasini, the patriotic song of our nation. We'll be led by the Ghana Police Band. Shall we all rise? Under the auspices of the University of Professional Studies Law School, and with great partnership with Pentiential, Lecha, and Ankoma, we're grateful and glad to the God Almighty, the man who created all of us and has brought all of us to this spot on Mother Earth, to make good of the place where he has placed us, and to also get the opportunity to serve his handmaid. We have gathered here this evening to reflect on the life and times of a great man and a son of the soil, one who has devoted all of his life to the service of his nation and the transfer of the knowledge he has acquired to the generations after him. He's not only done this within the confines of the traditional area from where he has emerged, but he has ensured that he has sent that excellence to every single place he's found himself on the globe. For that matter, the weight in this hall and the enthusiasm with which we've all approached tonight just goes to tell us the greatness and the inspirational story behind the great man, Dr. S.K.B Asante. Shall we do a big round of applause ahead of time before we go ahead? And of course, it is by no surprise that persons of weight, persons of influence, and persons of example in our society have gathered here this evening to perform this very important rite of being a part of this honorific lecture and award in honor of Dr. S.K.B Asante. At this time, I would like to pay my maximum respects to Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Shall we do a big round of applause for Her Ladyship, Justice Gertrude Tokono. She is here ably supported by justices of the Supreme Court, the appeals courts, and other higher courts of our nation. We'll duly acknowledge them as we go along, but at this time, I wish to bow to all of them. Shall we put our hands together? Leading the sound direction of this institution is a man I'll be introducing to all of us as we go along, because obviously he's a man of many parts and also a man of example, as we're here to celebrate great things of example. He traces his roots to a part of this nation that is celebrated for many things, including resource and the persons that it has produced for the development of our nation. For some years now, he has competently and devotedly served as Chancellor of this very vibrant university. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, please help me with warm applause to welcome up here to the stage for our opening address, the Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Dr. K.K. Sapong. And of course, his blood is very red and associated with the great S.K.B Asante Kotoko as well. Please put your hands together one more time.
Thank you very much, our able MC. Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice of our nation, the Chairman of the Council of State, my Lords, Honorable Ministers of State, and Honorable Deputy Ministers of State, Honorable Members of Parliament, our esteemed traditional rulers, our distinguished Honoree, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here today to celebrate a man whose achievements have defined an era, whose brilliance as a scholar illuminates the minds of the legally lettered and those deemed lay like myself. This occasion calls to mind the things of old and those ongoing, united by the tireless efforts of our Honoree, Nana S.K.B Asante, the Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore traditional area, known in private life as Dr. Samuel Kojo Boateng Asante. The enormity of task at hand today convinces me that if there's any moment when brevity should be the true soul of wit, then it is now. Accordingly, I've chosen to keep my welcome remark short by simply letting you all know how welcome you are to the beautiful campus of this rapidly growing university, the University of Professional Studies, Accra. As Chancellor, I'm proud to lead this university whose pioneering roles in many initiatives have made it the leader it is among its peers. I'm delighted that our law school has once again continued and sustained this path-breaking tendencies with its second Lifetime Achievement in Law Award. In a special way, I thank all of you distinguished people for coming to grace this occasion and to celebrate a special man, Nana S.K.B Asante, for his contributions to our dear country and the world at large. Nana is an excellent example to us all. His unblemished record in academia, public service, international adjudication, and traditional governance should make every Ghanaian proud. His sterling achievements can be summed up in the words of Maya Angelou, an American writer, poet, and civil rights activist, who said, and I quote, "When you learn, teach, and when you get, give," unquote. Once again, I welcome all of you to this beautiful campus of our special university. I wish us all a fruitful night of pomp and celebration. Thank you.
We're eternally grateful to you, Dr. Kofi Kodria-Sapong, the Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies. Your Ladyship, Nananom, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, our good friends and loved ones gathered here from far and near, We're also live on the Joy Prime channel, and later on we'll also be live on the Joy News channels. As has been said already, tonight is one of celebration, and tonight is one of acknowledging effort, great effort that will go down in history and will also be an example for the younger generation to follow. By way of introduction, my name is Nathaniel Atto. This evening, I will be your master of ceremonies, and it's my hope that together we will give the honoree the great memory that he deserves, such that every other day he will look back at tonight and smile and thank the good Lord on our behalf. We're getting ourselves ready for a performance that will go to highlight one of the many things that are associated with Nana, Dr. S.K.B Asante. He is a revered traditional ruler and a great man of example and a custodian of our great culture. In a few moments, we will be viewing a performance that will go to highlight that element of his life. But before we go ahead to do that, I'd once again invite our friends from the University of Professional Studies Choir to give us one tune. Thank you. Shall we do a big round of applause for the University of Professional Studies Choir? And now, at this time, it gives me great pleasure to bring here to us a performance that will go to highlight one of the key areas for which our honoree is identified, our beautiful culture in music and dance. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Sikadine Cultural Troupe.
Nana no matra nkonwa. Matra asem. Damasioni adaje. Akunyo ni nintini. Anyumre yamma kwaba. Matasa. Anaya da ponda. Anada ya da kasia. Ada idea. Subi mada. Mama nyanya mfo binti ne wa no. Abakwasam a wo ho ne se. Na ya memene da. Ana be ma ene ye be bona baswe. Mark stand be nyina so mfa anya adwuma kura adano ajuada no pa na ebedu ne memre da no kwasi adano ana o maame ayaya awisi afra no ka kire no se kwadwo ajuada be ko school Jonso odi akone aba ewo kuro no so sukuyi won kobi tebra ma me ka kire no nyame nhira ni timo ya na de bode me chiro fatwa ajuada no pa ne ne koma school master Koja be hwe asem. O papa ya fra na ya Asante. Ani jiaba. Anam se kwajo wanyini fie kakra ntecha se enwoma no. Ye teacher be kan bia ko ni tirim. Urade ya adum. Azam se bia be ye bia na wadi kan. Did moi the way. I don't know, I can't say and say, for just what we had there. I'm so well qualified to watch butter. Now, what somebody said, yeah, can't Asante Asokore and feared your sombre. I'll be trouble when I drew chebi. Na for biza na wo kwan ya senkran na hode wa mane ya asamo ma me kan kire na se kwadwo se wo firi Asokore ha ko drink kran de a enkran aye Ghana hemfie wo firi wa na kire se buru kire na wo ko oba ya won kwamshin ya ba mu ene Onemwa be lawyer. Osanso chire law. United Nations. World Bank. Of a mean timi nyina hankeka. Ade na ya wo ka chire wo ba. Adwada no pa wo. Sukuu no a kwadwo ekoye no. Ene ade be pie. Onemwa be san be ye o mahene wo kro no a what is one? I call on this year. Money, yo. Men say bread. Say I'm penning for a cancer. Any pine, you know, say, yeah, you know. And you were in Sonny Abo. So, baby. Crabby, ubu anie Yes, why you for 2-4 crowd, why advisor. Our United Nations, fan baby. Just say, Kobasa, Bibi, Ben, ya Pesi, Mia. No, my bum was it there, be what your mother for high and wine. Anya Gana Kwan, and young won't fast swap. Yanyama, Bibi, man's when your own fast will be. Gana, Yebonia yet. I couldn't know only an intention, said, a flown near Babasso. I could go with your chromashan and so, baby, I will be at your home. Mo, ya was Ante Bay. You know, ya will see. Come what you say, and Cabay, Mamma said. O couldn't more money, more money, yeah. More money, cool. I'm saying, ya check a crack. Ya boy, Bass one, yam. I remember in Chiman Swanyas, you know, Nipa Brow, Manaqua. A pay a bro. Who's young, my trady? As answer your mahine. Where bank is Zebra? United Nations, see him. And one corner, what the wood blade wow, I should say, when you panas and in Coswa. Anthony, I share Munaya Swan, and Yammy. Nana Susubi, we didn't know when I'm saying, oh, Mamma Susuya, Susia de Pamagana and Sonia home fast one. Crabby, more money, yo. I saw a German said, more money, and you my pa. More, a corner this year, your more.
Wafa, Osai Crunchy, Mo. Shall we do a big round of applause for him? We're known as a society that likes to celebrate the worst of news and unfortunate happenings. But tonight, as we gather here, and as we go through these very special moments of history, I'm very sure that we're unconsciously inspiring others who are joining us via our live stream on Joy News and on Joy Prime and various platforms to also rehush and realign themselves in terms of how they view society and in terms of where they place achievement and positive things. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to welcome here to the stage a fine gentleman who traces his legal roots to the Harvard Law School. Over the years, he has positioned the University of Professional Studies Law School as a place leading the charge for thought leadership and critical issues affecting the development of our nation. Tonight, I'm very sure that he's basking in great pride like most of us, especially considering the fact that we are all gathering to do something that must become an important part of our calendar year in, year out. Before emerging here on the campus of the University of Professional Studies, he had also done a lot in terms of adding to the bite in the academia, having served as the Dean of the Law School of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration. Please help me with a big round of applause to welcome the Dean of the UPSA Law School, Professor Ernest Kofi Abuchi. And before he attended Harvard, Your Ladyship, he attended St. Augustine's College.
Your Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the Chair of the Council of State, the Honorable Attorney General representing the His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, the Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, representing the Vice Chancellor, Nananom Nime Name, members of the Peace Council, my lords, all other distinguished protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, those who stand in the moment of history often underestimate the moment. And so, lest it be said of all of us by posterity that we failed to recognize the importance of a hero amongst us today. We have today gathered to testify to the wealth and richness of Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante's life, a life of service and scholarship. Since he was introduced to his country at the turn of the 1990s, Nana has remained relevant to the needs of Ghana and responded to the cause of service like the patriot that he is. When the UPSA Law School set out to award eminent champions of the rule of law and juristic contributions to both home and abroad, starting in 2003, we were inspired by the desire to acknowledge the unsung heroes of our time. We were determined to highlight excellence that is often glossed over even in the most celebrated of our statesmen. The recipient of the maiden award, Justice Samuel Kofi Dateba, epitomized a standard many aspire to in our country. His award was emblematic of the UPSA Law School's belief in associating with excellence while extolling the timeless values held by our honorees. This year's honoree is himself a paragon of virtue, who stands tall in his achievements and honor. In a society teetering on the brink of moral decadence, one which excellence and virtue remain depleted resources, Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante remains a standard bearer of what is doable. The Lifetime Achievement Award in Law is the UPSA Law School's statement of thanks to the trail of achievers whose early effort lit the torch of faith and whose fidelity to service and patriotism have left indelible marks on the fortunes of Ghana. These are my heroes, your heroes, and to their worthy enterprises, posterity will and should remember. For our part as a school, we are honored to honor the deserving and for the pleasure of gathering all of you here tonight, this cast of stellar citizens of our country, we remain grateful. And so I'll tell a story before I take my seat. A young boy once approached the father, asking for a car to be bought for him. The father promised the young boy that I'm going to buy you a car if you do three things. One, if you read your Bible religiously. Two, if you do well in your grades. And three, if you keep your beard trimmed. The young man, after a while, came back to the father with a report. The father reflected on the report and commended the young man for doing well in his grades, and also commended him for also reading his Bible religiously after quoting a few scriptures. One of those scriptures included an anecdotal reference to people in the Bible who kept their beards. The father reminded the young man that having done so well in the two areas, he was disappointed at the fact that he has kept his beard. And the young man said, I just reminded you of people in the Bible, from Samson to many others, who kept their beard. As part of reading my Bible, I've learned the lesson, and the lesson is to keep your beard. And so you asking me to trim my beard was inconsistent with the instruction to read the Bible. The father asked him, did you also realize that all those you refer to in the Bible walked and never sat in a car? The young man quickly was reminded of the reality of how age and experience will always be ahead of knowledge. If you ask me the moral of the story, I do not have a moral of the story for the occasion. I just thought that I haven't gathered all of you here tonight, all of you here to celebrate our eminent honoree. I would just like to thank you in these humorous words, if you found it humorous enough. But more importantly to say that as I began, today indeed is a moment of history. Thank you.
We're very grateful to the Dean of the Law School of the UPSA. Shall we put our hands together once again for Professor Ernest Kofi Abochi. At this time, I would like to pay symbolic respects to the President of the National House of Chiefs, Ojiahoho Yaojibi II. Shall we put our hands together for him? Nana Wonkwasu. We also duly acknowledge the presence of the Oman Hini of the Drabin traditional area, Nana Utu Srepo II. We very much adore our guest of honor, our Chief Justice, for many reasons. But it is also important to note that behind every vibrant, strong, and exemplary woman is a man of steel and a man of energy and a man of example. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to at this point pay my respects to Mr. Francis Kofi Tokono. He's the husband of our Chief Justice. Also here to support our honoree this evening. I'd also like at this point to pay my maximum respects to a man who has paid a lot of dues to public life. Right Honorable Aaron Mike Okoye, former Speaker of Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. And he traces his roots to Presec Legon. Your Ladyship, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to at this time also acknowledge the presence of the President of the Ghana Bar Association, Mr. Yao Achampomboafo. Seated next to him is the Chair of the Peace Council of Ghana, Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante. I've also noticed here in the hall some senior citizens whose lives at this time we, the younger generation, aspire to. Please help me to acknowledge the presence of a seasoned economist and politician and a great inspirer of the younger generation, Mr. Kwame Pienim. And seated next to him is Sir Sam Esson Jonah, the chairman of Jonah Capital Global. Your Ladyship, Nananom, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good people of Ghana. At this time, I respectfully like to ask all of us to focus our eyes on the big screens as we view what has been put together within a few minutes to represent the rather elaborate story of this great honoree who sits before me and in front of all of you, adorned in royal kente.
Let me start by congratulating you, Nana, on this outstanding award. You deserve it in all respects. I first encountered Nana when I was a student at the Ghana School of Law, and I was recommended to him to be his research assistant when he was working on his J.B. Dankwa Memorial Lectures. Nana has made very significant contributions to the Ghana legal system and to Ghanaian law. He's contributed significantly to the development of arbitration as a field of practice in Ghana. He's contributed significantly to the rule of law and governance in Ghana. I think his most outstanding contribution in that field is certainly the 1992 Constitution of the Republic, in respect of which he was the chairman of the committee of experts that drafted the proposals for the Constitution. In actual fact, he is sometimes described as the father of the Constitution, and I think his legacy will endure for a very long time. So he's made very significant contributions, and once again, it's commendable that UPSA has seen it and is awarding him this award.
Dr. Asante's international career, coupled with his career in Ghana, his body of work, his body of achievement is so vast that it's difficult to know where to start. But I just want to zero in on the amazing work he did as director, UN Center on Transnational Corporations in the 1980s, about 40 years ago. He was in charge of the effort to draw up some guidelines, a code of conduct, to help countries, especially developing countries, especially African countries, to know how to negotiate with them. And the groundwork that Dr. Asante and his team did has also been of critical help as countries all over the world draw up guidelines for investment, draw up guidelines to try and stop things like illicit flow of illicit transfers of resources, and so many things relating to investment, finance, and development. I just want to say a word of thanks and deep appreciation on behalf of all of us to Dr. S.K.B Asante for the great work he and his team did at the UN about 40 years ago, which has provided the basis for much of the progress the world has made in straightening out the relationship between these giant corporations and sovereign nation states.
One lecturer was taking us through the politics of Ghana, and he mentioned that, one Dr. Asante was with UN, and now he is the Deputy Attorney General in Ghana from Asokore. That is, I'm also from Asokore. They will say, oh, boah, boah, boah. Say, oh, I'm there. I'm from there. And your point, you know, and we say, I'm passing into you know. And I'm trying to say, oh, meaning of you see, and one thing that or they are not me personally, and they say, oh, pass on to my more. Or my be a chairman, a minimum of 8. Or so, we had about 16. A chairman, Asokore, I'm the only chairman for 30 years. Possibly you're more than enough for him. Some do be a cause in no. You will. It's a new one, my it may be a very, very grateful to him. This will respect. I also double the respect that he gives me.
Nana will remember as one of the great lawyers of this nation. His excellence, his diligence, his love for the profession will always be remembered. Nana has done extremely well in the area of the development of the law. He's indeed a legal colossus, properly so called, and a fountain of knowledge. I think he enjoys sharing his knowledge with all manner of people. I remember recently he had something to do at the courts here. He came to my office and shared with me a lecture he had given to UPSA Law students. That's not too long ago. That's about some 3 or 4 months ago. He showed me some of the feedback he had received from the students, and that was his passion. He delights in sharing knowledge. So on this occasion of honoring Nana, I would say that Ayuko, you have done a human's job. You have really helped to develop the law, developed the members of the legal profession, both the bar and people on the bench, members of the bench. So we say Ayuko, and this award is richly deserved.
Daddy, I am honored to have this opportunity to tell you on behalf of the whole family that you are a diamond that we could never buy. You are a gift to us in so many ways. You are the reason that we are who we are. We are where we are. Words really fail me, and you know that I have a few words to speak, but today I'm slightly at a loss for words because I'm overwhelmed by the fact that God brought you to this earth for a definite reason. You have shared yourself with not only your family, your community, with so many people that have benefited from you. You're always ready to support in any way that you can.
Right from his life at Asokore, through Achimota, to London, Nottingham, Yale, and wherever you want to talk about, there have been a lot of things you can glean. As I'm speaking, I have this book with me. Critical and Biographical Essays of Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante. If you go through this book and series of his articles, you will know the one I'm talking about. Go to Asokore and see a college he has established, training thousands of children, modeling their life so that they will be somewhere. As we are celebrating you today, in the presence of this college, as we take this award, Paul Primpo Manso and his family say, Ayuko, God bless you, our mentor, Yamin Shao.
I'd like to commend the producers of that audiovisual documentary for trying their best to capture what is definitely a very elaborate story in just about 10 minutes. We'll do a big round of applause for them. Our distinguished honoree tonight is a man who has also applied his Christianity to every part of his journey. A staunch member of the Accra Ridge Church, and at this time I would like to pay my respects to the Men's Fellowship of the Accra Ridge Church who are here with us this evening to celebrate with him. Please put your hands together for them. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of a past Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aite. Please put your hands together for him. We also duly acknowledge our friends from the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Please do some applause. Your Ladyship, Nananum, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, good friends and loved ones from the academia, good people of Ghana, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to remind all of us that we're live on the Joy Prime channel and soon we'll also be joining our friends via the Joy News channel. This evening, it's all about positivity and it's all about symbolically acknowledging a journey that has been traveled by calculation, by inspiration, and by the energy and the will to have excellence and make excellence a definition of the Ghanaian. We're preparing ourselves for the lecture, the much-awaited lecture on the life and work of Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante. And it will be just appropriate to start off on a note of music delivered on a saxophone by one of the fastest-moving saxophonists we can find anywhere in the world. Please do some warm applause as we welcome Eresi Hogan. Beautiful arts of music and dance. At this time, I'd like to say a very big welcome and acknowledge the presence of a Member of Parliament and also Deputy Minister of Education, Reverend John Ntim Fodjo. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight, sir. He's the first Ghanaian to rise to the enviable position of President of the International Advertising Association. Mr. Joel Neti, ladies and gentlemen. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of many students who are here this evening taking inspiration from the great story that has been told us and is still being told by our Honoree, Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante. I duly mention our friends from the host law school, which is UPSA Law School. Shall we put our hands together for them? Our friends from the University of Ghana School of Law, shall we put our hands together for them? And also students of Achimota School. Let's all remember that the great story was told in part on the campus of Achimota School. Also, I've noted the presence of Bleobi here this evening, continuing students of Accra Academy. Shall we put our hands together for them? At this time, I would also like to say a very big thank you to our very generous sponsors who have added their weight and their resources for this evening to be possible. Before I go ahead, I would like to pay respects to the Managing Director of GCB Bank, Mr. Kofi Adomako. Please put your hands together for him. And so we say a very big thank you to our main partner, Bentiencho, Lecha, and Ankoma, and also our platinum sponsor, Ghana Commercial Bank. Our gold sponsors are Stanbic Bank and APSA Bank, and silver sponsors are Goyle, Twillium Industries Limited, United Pension Trusts, and also Nationwide Medical Insurance. Shall we put our hands together for them? We say a very big thank you to our media partners, Joy News, Business and Financial Times, and Pan-African TV, as well as Channel 247. We'll be doing some more as we go along in terms of acknowledgments and paying respects to whom it is due. But it gives me great pleasure this moment to welcome up here a woman of substance who goes down in history as the third to occupy the position of Chief Justice of the Republic. Her extensive leadership and experience includes positions such as the Vice Chair of E-Justice Steering and the Oversight Committee, as well as Vice Chair of the Internship and Clerkship Program for the Judiciary. She has also contributed significantly to legal knowledge, authoring of several articles on interest rates and debt sustainability, commercial law, judicial ethics, and leadership. She also goes down in history as the 15th Chief Justice of this nation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, she traces her very proud educational roots from the second cycle system to Wesley Girls High School, Cape Coast. With a very big round of applause, please help me welcome the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Her Ladyship, Justice Gertrude Torkornoo.
Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante, Honoree for tonight. Nana Otuoswebo, Chairman of the Council of State. Dr. K.K. Sapong, Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA. My lords and ladies of the Superior Courts of Judicature, herein present, Dean Kofi Abochi, Dean of the Faculty of Law, UPSA, the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and other ministers of state present, Mr. Yao Boafo Achiampong, National President of the Ghana Bar Association, members of the National Peace Council, members of the Council of State, members of the National House of Chiefs, Nananom, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is an absolute privilege and honor to be requested to deliver this eulogistic lecture in honor of Nana Dr. Samuel Kwadwo Boateng Asante, nationally known as Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante, or Nana Susubribi Krobia Asante, or Mahene of Asante Asokore traditional area. A man I consider within the context of myth and legend. To placate him, I think I have to add a correction to how the MC introduced me, because I did my sixth form also at Achimota School. I was sure Nana would not be happy if that is left out permanently. I must confess, ladies and gentlemen, that I feel like a child invited into the bedroom of my father. A bedroom that is complete with white bed sheets, vanilla carpet, and glass vases. My first interest at this time, that all through this time that I'll be standing before you this evening, is to make sure that I do not smudge anything in the space of Nana's reputation or break any piece of treasure of his achievements with carelessness or inexperience. So Nana, if I go wrong anywhere, Nana, please forgive me. Nana and Professor Abochi, thank you very much for the honor of asking me to deliver this evening's eulogistic piece on our beloved patriarch. Last year, I had the privilege of speaking at the conferment of the Lifetime Achievement Award to Professor Justice Kofi Datiba, another illustrious son of the law and the land. This year, the selection committee of the UPSA Law School continues to display the highest standards of choice in the naming of tonight's honoree for the award. A set of books that I recall immersing myself in as a teenager was titled Makers of Civilization. These books presented the iconic people who defined the landmarks of history and civilization. People such as Marie Curie, the Nobel laureate, whose work in physics and chemistry, including radioactivity, earned her a place among, quote, women who changed science, unquote. Alexander Fleming, whose work of culturing led to the development of penicillin, and Florence Nightingale, who defined modern nursing. All these persons of great mind were introduced to many a secondary school teenager through the Makers of Civilization series. As I have encountered the different facets of Dr. S.K.B Asante's life and work as a law student, as a lawyer, as a citizen, and member of the judiciary, I have long formed the position that Nana Dr. Asante's place is within the volumes of the makers of Ghana's civilization. Should any historian oblige a waiting nation by continuing the narrative beyond the second edition of Professor Edu Boahen's topics in West African history, I believe that more than a chapter needs to be dedicated to Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante, a national hero, a statesman, a patriarch, administrator, academic, national and international civil servant, leader of thought, philosopher, Omanhene, traditional ruler, and social engineer extraordinaire. In depiction of the quality of excellence that the man Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante embodies, it can be seen from his life work that each of the above identified roles has influenced and filled the content of the other, culminating in trails of effective legacies from every one of them. Through all of this, Nana has towered in ageless relevance and continuing quest for service to motherland Ghana. In his, quote, notes on my journey to Achimota, unquote, Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante opens his essay by describing, quote, his fate with Ghana with the words, by some historical quirk, various stages of my personal history coincided with some phases of the modern political evolution of Ghana. I went to elementary school during the Second World War, that is 1939 to 45. I actually started a year earlier. My education at the secondary and tertiary levels took place during the nationalist struggle for independence, unquote. It is easy then to see why this extraordinary man has poured his life into the development of our nation. His greatness undoubtedly resounds in how effectively he allowed the worth and treasures of royal upbringing, education in Achimota School, and birth and growth at the cusp of the historical landmarks that shaped the last century to impact him for good, making him a giver to the nation rather than an untoward taker. Leonardo da Vinci is quoted as saying that, quote, whoever sows virtue reaps honor. The man we have come here to honor this evening has sown so much virtue in our nation and the Committee of Nations that the honor due him must, in Portian descriptions of the virtue of mercy in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, be without strain or restraint, and must overflow with the gratitude and appreciation of a nation that he has helped guide since the tumultuous evening of colonialism through the several chapters of Republican governance and into the now assertive quest for development, freedom, and justice in the Fourth Republic. Excellencies, Lordships, Nananom, distinguished guests, this is my privilege tonight, and I do so by inviting a walk through the trailblazing trails of Nana Dr. Asante's work on the various stages that he performed them, not only for Ghana, but for the international community. Nana's life work is a tribute to his service towards everything placed in his care and his discharge of obligation with principles of excellence. I first encountered Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante, Omahini of Asokore Asante, in the hearing of his many initials and designations, stated in hushed tones as they describe this icon of Ghana's national development. And my continued encounters with him have been largely through the corridors of authority, including his presence among members of the Judicial Council. And though my experience of him has been from the distance of observation, the largeness of his influence of grace, teaching, and direction has been so strong because of their impact on national life that it is my pride as a Ghanaian to hold them up. Law and Public Service. A pioneer lecturer at the Department of Law of the University of Ghana, Nana's natural aptitude for leadership is reflected in the fact that he became head of the law faculty in 1962, the year that I was born. A review of his life shows an active movement in different roles of public servant and scholar in the 1960s. After working at the World Bank for a period of time, Nana Asante returned to Ghana and became Ghana's Solicitor General in 1969. He later rose to become Deputy Attorney General, an appointment that reflects the steady progression of life and career that he has consistently expressed. At the Attorney General's Department, the records tell us that Nana's pivotal work included negotiating key projects for the country, such as the Pong Hydroelectric Project in 1974. In law, the trails blazed by the Honoree run through the disciplines of the law of immovable property in Ghana, constitutional law, investment and commercial law, international law, the law of international organizations, and the law on arbitration. Land law. In my early years as a law student from 1980, I was introduced to Nana's works on the intertwining of different concepts in customary law, land law, and the law of trusts. Through his writings that continue to be relevant in providing a foundational understanding of Ghana's land law, Nana elucidated the facts, principles, and philosophies behind the normative structure of Ghana's land law, especially the seemingly fast eroding appreciation of the concept of trusteeship in Ghana's land law. In Nana's reflections on his time at Yale Law School, he provides a window into the environments from which his rich contributions to learning in Ghana's land law were shaped. He had this to say: Yale law provided me with every opportunity to widen my intellectual horizons, appreciate American approaches to law in various areas, and reflect deeply on Anglo-American and Ghanaian legal concepts. My area of concentration was real property and trusts, subjects which I was teaching at the University of Ghana, unquote. Of course, the appreciation that he is a royal reveals his interest in clarifying the norms of land law in the early years of Ghana's independence and status as a republic. Nana, all students and researchers of law have been beneficiaries of your depth of thinking, research, knowledge, and scholarship in this area of land law, property, and trust. For this and much more, we say thank you. Arbitration. In the landscape of arbitration, our honoree has participated in international arbitrations under the auspices of the International Court of Arbitration of the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, where he was a member for 12 years, and the London Court of International Arbitration, the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, ICSID, the Permanent Court of Arbitration, Hague, and more. Crucially, his dissenting opinion in the ICSID case number ARB/87/3, Agricultural Products Limited versus Republic of Sri Lanka, delivered on 15 June 1990, attracted wide international attention for the sheer depth and breadth of his scholarship and jurisprudence, indeed much more than the decision itself. I thought you were going to clap for him. Constitutional law. Nana's legacy in leading the committee of experts that formulated proposals for the drafting of the 1992 Constitution has continued to impact the Republican era of Ghana and beyond, and is noted in African governance reform history. It is a legacy that has continued to inspire similar models on the continent. For his faith in his country and his dedication to overcoming decades of failed experiments and willingness to brace the odds of speaking and contributing at every turn, Nana deserves the appreciation of generations gone, present, and yet to be born. Nana, for this and much more, Ghana is thankful. To quote his own words from his speech in 2000, when he represented his class of 1950, 50 years after they entered Achimota School, quote, "We remember Alexander Fraser for his abiding faith in the inherent intellectual capacity of Africans, his deep commitment to the essential equality of all races, and for giving Achimota a sound and imaginative leadership for nearly a decade. We honor Kwejer Aggrey for his towering intellect, his humanity and magnanimity, and his profound insights into education, particularly of women," unquote. Nana, your contribution to Ghana's moments of constitutional history resound in the same terms that you used for these contributors to the nation's educational history. Your abiding faith in the inherent intellectual capacity of Ghanaians to shape the slippery slopes of democracy, your deep commitment to the essential equality of all our ethnic groups to meld together in a kaleidoscope of a national life under one constitution, despite the diversity of customary laws on inheritance, marriage, land, property ownership, and traditional governance in chieftaincy, and your towering intellect, humanity, and magnanimity in adding your profound insights into how law can guide a nation of diverse people into a harmonious and prosperous whole has vastly and undoubtedly contributed to the national resilience that is leading the people of Ghana in a relentless march on to democratic excellence, no matter the odds and challenges we face. As current head of the nation's constitutional court and legal order, allow me to say thank you to you and the founding fathers of our nation from the First Republic to this Fourth Republic. Nana, for this and much more, Ghana is thankful. Diplomacy and civil service. Nana joined the World Bank as the first African south of the Sahara to be appointed to the legal department of the World Bank. From this time on, Nana's work in commercial law and investment law shone in the legacy he has bequeathed on the stages of civil service. Described as, quote, an international civil servant, a well-known scholar of foreign investment protection law, a first-generation third world international scholar, and an observer of the unforgotten UN-based battle for a new international economic order, NIEO, of the 1970s and 1980s. In a biographic review of his work by scholar Dr. Kehinde Folake Olaye, Nana Susubribi's work in international diplomacy blazed trails through the UN Center on Transnational Corporations, UNCTC, and ICSID, such that Dr. Olaye points out that Nana's appointment to the UNTC was acknowledged as one of the two most influential appointments of the time in the writings of John H. Dunning, a scholar widely recognized as the father of the fields of research of international business, economics, international direct investment, and the multinational enterprise. Dr. Olaye urges his own position that the publications of this demure man from Asokore during Nana's years at and after the UNCTC are the most important on the work of the UNCTC from a legal perspective. The records show that Nana's services at the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, ICSID, saw him significantly contribute to shaping the norms that govern international investment law and rules. Working there at a time when politics of seizures by governments of the global south was matched by domineering postures of countries of the north, it is acknowledged that Nana's work was part of early efforts that helped stabilize global investment rules. It will be recalled that in the 1980s and 1990s, ICSID and the Global South projected the voice that tamed post-colonial proclivities and helped to demand space for the proper growth of international relations, trade, and investment. Undoubtedly, Nana belongs to the unsung brigade of international civil servants who guided nations with diplomacy and intellectual strength to the current expansive state of global commerce. Nana, thank you. Also telling is his decade-long contributions at the United Nations Center on Transnational Corporations, UNCTC. As Chief Legal Advisor and Director of Advisory and Information Services at the UNCTC, the records reflect that Nana played many pivotal roles, including advising governments and leading teams to countries such as China to negotiate for the implementation of open-door policies for admitting transnational corporations. Nana has shared his experiences in publishing and lecturing extensively on international investment law, international law, legal aspects of transnational corporations, regulations of international mineral agreements, and international business transactions. Academia. Nana's academic prominence is no less grand. The pen, the saying goes, is mightier than the sword. And yes, it is. The sword may kill countless numbers that may lie unprofitable to nations in graves sometimes unknown. But any piece of writing preserved contributes to knowledge, learning, and the shaping of human life. So has Nana's writing brilliance remained immortalized in scholarship that spans the spectrum of all the areas that this icon has worked in. From Nana's work and writings to capture the learnings and teachings of his work, we appreciate a commitment not only to peace in constitutional and traditional governance, but to enhancing prosperity by clarifying rules and principles for marketplace actors. Through my checks in preparation for tonight's address, I discovered that Nana visited and taught or spoke at leading universities of the world, including Harvard University. Nana's depth of scholarship and intellectual contributions appear in some of the most consequential and prestigious law journals, including Yale Law Journal, International and Comparative Law Quarterly, American Journal of International Law, Cornell International Law Journal, Harvard Journal of International Law, Leiden Journal of International Law, Foreign Investment Law Journal, Journal of World Trade Law, Journal of African Law, University of Ghana Law Journal, Review of Ghana Law, Wisconsin Law Review, and yes, the UPSA African International and Comparative Law Journal. By immortalizing his thoughts and leadership contribution to the development of functional norms through writing, Nana not only talked his walk, but he left his words behind to guide, inspire, and justify the development tracks of Ghana, Africa, and the nations of the world. Indeed, in recognition of his immense contribution to scholarship and legal academia, as well as national and international public service, a first script authored by 47 jurists, scholars, and international experts across the world was published in his honor in 2016. Nana's election to the office of President of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences is the icing on the mountain of the scholarly standing, testifying to the satisfaction of his peers regarding the immensity of his contributions. Governance. It is a matter of national note that within the revered institution of chieftaincy, Nana has taken his place as Omahini of Asokore Asante with the nobility, elegance, and ease of excellence that he brings to everything. And undoubtedly, the state of Asokore Asante is also the beneficiary of his huge intellectual background knowledge on the functional norms of customary law, immovable property, trusteeship, and governance. My beloved late father once said something at a family gathering that I have not forgotten. He said that there are two things that may not be noticed when you have them, but which, if lost, will leave a person tragically worse off. The first is good health, and the other is good parentage. Distinguished guests, My humble hypothesis this evening is that the quality of thought and mind discernible in our revered traditional leaders, epitomized by our honoree tonight, has contributed in no small measure to the adeptness with which Ghana's peculiar model of common law, provided for in Article 11.2 of the 1992 Constitution, has guided the stability of our nation. The judiciary and the Judicial Service of Ghana has been the beneficiary of the authority of Nana's office in his role as a member of the Judicial Council, pursuant to Article 153M of the 1992 Constitution. Through this position, Nana has also contributed immensely to the administration of justice in our country. Nana, for your direct contributions to governance and much more, Ghana is thankful. Conclusion. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please pardon me if I have been effusive tonight. Nana's service to our world has been extravagant, and it must be acknowledged in no less equality. In surveying the life and times of great men and women whose energies and dedication have shaped our country towards freedom and justice, such as Nana Susubribi Krobia Asante, the stark contrast in seeming prevalence of loss of love for country, loss of the values of patriotism, and loss of the social norms of courtesy, respect, and the elegance of nobility that contemporary society appears to confront any reader of modern materials with is thrown up. The definition and clarification of honor, outplayed through the words exposition of life work and eulogies expressed here tonight, therefore provides an opportunity for generations behind Nana to appreciate what citizens must necessarily prioritize as true virtue. This award is therefore timely and opportune indeed. It beautifully weaves into the constellation of achievements which make the man Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante. Nana's life mirrors the virtue, dedication, and service that every nation needs to become great and strong. Nana Nyamin Shrao, onto Wundamo, we will hold on to the lessons of servant leadership that you have taught throughout your life. For these and many more, a grateful nation and a grateful legal sector says thank you.
Lords, Nananum, ladies and gentlemen of distinguished measure, I think we should do one more big round of applause in appreciation of the depth of the message that has been delivered by Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Her Ladyship, we bow to you, we salute you, and we're very grateful to you for playing this very key part in celebrating this great son of the soil. Shall we do it one more time, ladies and gentlemen? Family has played a very important role in this beautiful journey that we're celebrating today. It's in that regard that I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante's daughter, actually his last born child, Angela Asante. Shall we put our hands together for her? She also serves as a presidential advisor on gender and development. And of course, not only the second generation, but the third of Jarius Susubribi Krobia Asante Esa, Nana's grandson. Shall we put our hands together for him? And we do know that sometime later in life, he sure should be walking this path or a related one. While we go ahead and celebrate the achievers of our society and the beauty of every single thing that each and every one of us have done to contribute to society's big picture, I'd like to pay my special respects to the Queen Mother of Atonsu, who is a classmate of our honoree tonight at Asokore Methodist School, together with the late Professor Edubuahin, who was a flag bearer of the MPP and a great name in the academia. Shall we put our hands together? Also, Nana Kwejo Owusu, her son, who is also a chief in Atonsu in the Nsuta traditional area. Shall we put our hands together for him? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we continue to say a very big thank you to all of our sponsors with whose very generous support we have come thus far in this great celebration. We will be listening to another round of celebration of Ghanaian culture in music and dance, and that will be preparing us for the main address of the evening, which will be done on the behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with another big round of applause, please help me welcome Sikadain Traditional Troupe. Your Ladyship, Honorable Minister, Nananom, ladies and gentlemen of distinguished measure, at this time I would like to pay maximum respects to the Ghana Association of Former International Civil Servants, the membership who are ably represented here to support our honoree for tonight. Shall we do a big round of applause for the Ghana Association of Former International Civil Servants? I'd like to also once again remind all of us that we're live on the Joy Prime channel, and this honorific lecture will also be telecast on the Joy News channel, which is also on 421 on DSTV. At this time, we're getting ourselves ready to listen to an address which would have been delivered by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana. But as the everyday demands of the presidency will go, he's been pulled away by some magnets that also have equal importance. In his stead this evening, he has delegated a fine gentleman who traces his roots to Adesado College in Cape Coast. Since this evening, I'm referring a lot to second cycle institutions and our respective alma mater. Over there, they say, vel primus, vel cum primis, being the first or amongst the first. And at St. Augustine's, we say, omnia vincit labor, perseverance conquers all. Interestingly, our honoree this evening, who is a very worthy and respected Accra, has lived all of these virtues. So while he may trace his certificates to Achimota School, he has a bit of Augustine's Absunian blood in him, and maybe another degree of Santa Clausian blood in him. At this time, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Godfred Dame.
Thank you very much, Nat. And of course, indeed, you showed that you did not go to Adesado. Even though it's a V, it is pronounced like a W. Well primus, welcome primus. Indeed, this is a rare occasion on which I get to speak after the Chief Justice. Your Ladyship, no contempt whatsoever. And it can only happen when I walk in the borrowed robes of the President. And I must convey the President's sincerest apologies for his inability to be here. Indeed, he accepted the invitation to attend this program, but at the last minute, he had to be pulled away to Liberia as the special guest of honor at the independence celebrations of the Republic of Liberia. So, Nana, the President is very sorry. And indeed, he conveys his warmest felicitations to you. And I must also say that as a special guest in my own right, I had my own personal words and reflection of the truly remarkable life of an exceptional gentleman who has served not only Ghana, but Africa and the world. But of course, when I walk in the broad roads of the President, I'm compelled to jettison him and read only the President's speech. So Nana, I think I'll find time and indeed document him and publish it. I think you deserve it. Congratulations to you. So I proceed to discharge my assignment, which is to read the President's speech. Eminent clergy, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, and who is today beautifully accompanied by a gentleman I describe as the fourth gentleman of the land, Mr. Francis Tokunu, the Chairman of the Council of State, Nana Otuo Sebo, Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana and other superior courts of judicature, the former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Mike Okwe, the Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Dr. K.K. Sapon, Deputy Attorney General Afretia Yeboah, the Dean of the UPSA School of Law, Professor Kofi Abochi, the President of the National House of Chiefs, the President of the Ghana Bar Association, eminent traditional rulers who have come to celebrate the life of Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante, members of the Ghana Bar Association, and of course, an eminent Santa Clausian, Dr. Sam Jonah I acknowledge you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the President indeed says that he's very grateful for the invitation to be here today as a special guest of honor at this prestigious event of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA, the 2024 Honorific Lecture and Award Ceremony. We gather under the theme, and I quote, celebrate a legacy of service and excellence, end of quote. A fitting tribute to the remarkable career and contributions of our esteemed honoree, Dr. S.K.B Asante, now a respected traditional ruler, Nana Susu Bibi Krobia Asante, or Manhin of Asokore Asante. Tonight, we celebrate a man whose life and work have been synonymous with integrity in public life, devotion to duty, and a strong attachment to the rule of law. Dr. S.K.B Asante's illustrious career in law, spanning several decades, has left a considerable mark, not only on the Ghanaian legal profession, but also on the international legal stage. His contributions have enriched our legal system, fostered a culture of excellence, and inspired generations of legal practitioners. On a personal note, I'm proud to say that Dr. S.K.B Asante can be properly described as a protege of my father, Edward Kufuor, the third Ghanaian Chief Justice and the President of the Second Republic. Indeed, my mother, that is the President's mother, Adeline Kufuor, Auntie Adeline to Dr. and Mrs. S.K.B Asante, cut the cake at their wedding. This mentorship was not just a relationship of guidance and learning, but a firm bond of shared values and common vision that shaped Dr. Asante's career and philosophy. They both accepted in full as valid the liberal democratic postulate that the most productive and progressive societies are those of free citizens regulated by the rule of law. I believe it was under my father's mentorship that he honed his legal skills and developed a deep-seated commitment to justice and public service. So as you can see, I've known him most of my adult life. Dr. Asante's journey is evidence of the power of perseverance and the pursuit of excellence. From his early days as a student, he exhibited a keen intellect and an instinctive appreciation of scholarship. These attributes quickly distinguished him as a formidable legal mind, capable of navigating the complexities of both national and international legal frameworks. His academic achievement, coupled with his practical experience, positioned him as a leading figure in the legal profession. He was, in fact, a much-admired Solicitor General in the Progress Party government of Prime Minister Dr. Kofi Abifo-Busia. Throughout his career, Dr. Asante has demonstrated a fierce attachment to justice and the rule of law. He has been a champion of human rights, advocating for the protection of fundamental freedoms and the equitable treatment of all individuals. His work has shaped legal precedents and has also influenced policy and legislative reforms aimed at strengthening our democratic institutions. In addition to his legal practice, Dr. Asante has made important contributions to academia. As a scholar, he has authored numerous publications that have enriched legal literature and provided invaluable insight into the evolving nature of the law. His teachings have inspired countless students, many of whom have gone on to become prominent figures in their own right. Through his mentorship, he has cultivated a legacy of intellectual rigor and ethical practice that continues to guide the legal community. One of the most significant highlights of his career was serving as the chairman of the committee of experts that drafted the constitutional proposals, leading to the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution, the Constitution of the Fourth Republic, the longest, most enduring republic in Ghana's history. Dr. Asante's leadership was instrumental in crafting a document that has provided a stable and robust framework for governance, ensuring the protection of the rights of all Ghanaians and the proper function of our democratic processes. His legacy extends beyond the borders of Ghana. His work with international organizations, particularly the United Nations and the African Union, has positioned him as a global advocate for justice and good governance. His contributions to international arbitration and conflict resolution have been instrumental in engendering peace and stability in various regions. His efforts have not only brought honor to our nation, but have also advanced the cause of justice on a global scale. As we honor Dr. Asante tonight, we reflect on the broader implications of his work. His career serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of upholding the rule of law, defending human rights, and striving for excellence in all our endeavors. In celebrating his achievements, we are called to emulate his example and to continue the work of building a just and equitable society. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's theme, celebrating a legacy of service and excellence, resonates deeply with the values that Dr. Asante embodies. His legacy is one of devotion to justice, integrity, and the pursuit of knowledge. It is a legacy that inspires all of us to strive for greatness and to contribute meaningfully to the enhancement of our society. As we confer the Lifetime Achievement in Law Award on Dr. S.K.B Asante, we not only celebrate his past accomplishments, but also look forward to the continued impact of his work. His legacy will undoubtedly inspire future generations to pursue excellence in the legal profession and beyond. We are deeply thankful to him for his contributions and are happy to recognize his outstanding achievement. In closing, let's all take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. S.K.B Asante for his tireless dedication and exemplary service. His work has enriched our nation, strengthened our legal system, and advanced the cause of justice. As we celebrate his legacy, let us also reaffirm our adherence to the values he has championed and strive to build a future that reflects the principles of service and excellence. Congratulations once again to Dr. S.K.B Asante, Nana S.K.B Asante, on this well-deserved honor. May your legacy continue to inspire and guide us all. May God bless Dr. S.K.B Asante, Nana S.K.B Asante, Omanhene of Asokore Asante, and us all. And may God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
We're very grateful to you, Honorable Godfred Dame, for delivering the message on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. And on a very light note, just in case you're wondering if this really came from His Excellency, the President, you just have to listen to the very last line, which says, "I thank you all for your attention." Please put your hands together for him one more time. At this time, once again, respectfully, I'd like to welcome up here to the stage Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Justice Gertrude Tokonu, ably supported by the Honorable Attorney General of Ghana and the Dean of the UPSA Law School for the special right of the conferment of the honor for tonight. Shall we do a big round of applause as we get ourselves ready?
Shall we please rise and acknowledge? The stage, yes. We are where we'll confer the award and to do distinguished Lady Chief Justice and distinguished the content of and we read Lifetime Achievement Award for your excellence, inspired a generation. I'll take it again. For your excellence in leadership and service, you have inspired goodness and devotion to the national cause across the many decades of your service. Your exceptional eminence as an academic and a stalwart international and domestic public servant has brought honor unto yourself, your country, Ghana, and the people of Asante Asokore. As a chief, you have stayed true to your heritage and the finesse with which you have blended national governance, duties, and traditional leadership has charted a path for many to emulate. Particularly noted for your indelible contributions to building the structures and juristic pillars of national arbitration and transnational corporations law, your work has helped define an age and remains a tribute to your devotion to the life of service and a better world. Leading the team that drafted the 1992 Constitution of Ghana remains a lasting legacy of your work, on which posterity will reflect and yearn better knowledge of you. As a testament to our shared values of excellence and integrity, the UPSA Law School presents to you this plaque extolling your rich accomplishments accumulated across a lifetime of leadership to the cause of community, nation, and humanity. In acknowledgement of your contributions in academia, global and domestic public service, governance reform, national leadership, and mentorship of generations, therefore, this Lifetime Achievement Award in Law is hereby conferred on you. Nana S.K.B Asante, Paramount Chief Asante Asokore, conferred this 25th day of July 2024 by the UPSA Law School, signed the Dean of the Law School, Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Gertrude Tokonu, Chief Justice of Ghana.
And now, your ladyship, lords, ladies, Nananom, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the greatest pleasure to hand over to our very worthy honoree for tonight, a man who is an example of servant leadership and a man who surely has written a script which will be followed by generations after today. Shall we do a big round of applause as we pay this very big honor one more time?
Your Ladyship, the Chief Justice, the representative of the President, Honorable Attorney General, and Otuo Board, Chairman of the Council of State, and the President of the National House of Chiefs, Justices of the Superior Courts, my brothers, revered traditional leaders, the elders and citizens of Asante Asokore and Koforidua Asokore, President and members of the Ghana Bar Association, my dear colleagues from the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Ghana Association of Former International Civil Servants, my very devoted friends of the Men's Fellowship of Accra Red Church, distinguished religious leaders, eminent members of the National Peace Council, students from most schools, all schools represented here, particularly Achimota and Accra. Thank you. We say blow, eh? I would, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, first, I would like to thank His Excellency the President most sincerely for this tribute to me. I seize this opportunity to express the indebtedness of my wife, Philomena, and myself to the President's late parents, H.E. President Edward Akufo-Addo and Madam Adeline Akufo-Addo, for the gracious mentoring and support that we received from them for decades. I'm truly grateful to Her Ladyship, Justice Gertrude Sakono, Chief Justice of the Republic, for this touching eulogy in my honor. I'm really humbled, Your Ladyship, overwhelmed. It is at once gratifying and humbling to hear such words from the head of our judiciary. And I also recall meeting you in various places, particularly at the Judicial Council and at various workshops where you have shared your deep knowledge of the law, particularly international construction law. I thank the Honorable Attorney General for performing this role and thank him in advance for such words that he has in my honor. I'm profoundly grateful to Professor Kofi Abuchi and the management of UPSA Law School for conferring this great honor on me. I commend you and your colleagues, particularly Ms. Gertrude Ama and Ms. Edna Obiri, for this singular recognition, not forgetting the other members of the steering committee, and the tremendous energy invested in organizing this event. UPSA Law School is emerging as an enviable and dynamic center of learning. The establishment of this Lifetime Achievement Award in law, the publication of an international law journal, and its insistence on rigorous research and the introduction of imaginative methods of legal education are worthy and laudable traditions. I've been associated with the jurisprudence class of this school through an annual lecture which I deliver at the instance of Dr. Atta Kesson, and I'm happy to receive this prestigious award, which will no doubt reinforce our relationship. My thanks are also due to the Honorable Dana Otuo, Chairman of the Council of State, Nananum and Niemes, revered religious leaders, representatives of various organizations, students, all of you, for attending this event. I'm grateful to the sponsors of the event, Ghana Commercial Bank, Stanbic Bank, UPSA, Bensi Lesa Anankoma, Ghana Arbitration Center, the Nationwide Medical Insurance, United Pensions Trustees, Ghana Association of Chinese Societies. May God bless all of you for this remarkable expression of support. Ladies and gentlemen, I've often referred to my, quote, improbable journey from my Ghanaian village school at Asokore to a professional and academic career in both national and international arenas. Looking back over my education and career, my pervasive and dominant feeling is one of deep gratitude for the historical changes and the divine and human interventions that made this incredible story a gratifying reality. I'll tell you a story which I've narrated so many times. In 1943, the late Michael Diana, who was then a school inspector, this is a Asokore Methodist School, and after observing me for a while, asked me, little boy, what would you like to do in future? This was 1943 in Asokore. Displaying the bravado of a son of 4 people, I declared that I wanted to be a lawyer. This provoked a roar of dismissive laughter from my classmates, and their reaction was understandable, because in 1943, there was no university in Ghana, there certainly was no law school. Only affluent families could send their wards to England because the government did not offer scholarships. In fact, even the preliminary step of going to secondary school was a rare phenomenon. But against the cynical admonition of the senior students who thought that it was impossible to go to Achimota from a village school in Asokore, I was inspired by my headmaster, S.K.B, to apply for a scholarship to Achimota, which I won in 1945. Now, a lot has been said by leadership about my career, but I want to point out the milestones in my career which have emboldened me to describe my journey as an improbable journey. So I've told you what happened in 1943. Now, every 10 years thereafter, I'll disclose what happened to me. In 1943 was this question put to me, and my declaration, which was regarded as fanciful. Then, 1953, I was admitted to law school at Nottingham University in the UK. In 1963, I was a lecturer at the University of Ghana, having completed a brief tenure as acting head of the law department of the university. In 1973, I was Solicitor General of Ghana after surviving General former Colonel Kuchua Champo's coup d'etat. I was then engrossed in international negotiations for the restructuring of Ghana's external debt and the acquisition of 55% equity interest in foreign-owned mining and timber companies. In 1983, I was appointed a director of the United Nations Center on Transnational Cooperation in New York. In 1993, the 1992 Constitution, which I helped to craft came into force. The year 2003 saw my election as president of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. In 2013, I was a traditional leader, Paramount Chief of Asokore, and I accompanied Otumfuo Setutu, together with my brother, and Otto Stripboard, on his trip, on Otumfuo's trip to South Africa, where we visited President Mandela. 10 years after that, 2024, here I am, receiving an award from you. I would like to disabuse your minds of any notion that I have an extraordinary ability. So how did this improbable journey become a reality? My short answer is the incidence of divine and human interventions. I must first express my profound gratitude to God Almighty for shepherding me through this 80-year journey. Anybody looking at the circumstances in which I was lifted from Asokore into global service would acknowledge divine protection and guidance in this journey, for which I'm eternally grateful. God operates through human agents, and the list of my human benefactors is long and cannot be exhausted in this short address. There's a whole chapter in my recent book, which is incidentally available outside the door for anybody who wants to explore further. I begin with my parents, particularly my mother, Obapeni Yawisi, who took the consequential step of taking me in January 1938 to a skeptical teacher in Asokore Methodist School to begin my education. Sending children to school was by no means the norm in those days. My grandmother, Nana Amasewa, was a stabilizing factor in my childhood. Though my mother provided the resources for my education, my grandmother raised me and taught me all the virtues of traditional life when my mother frequently traveled around the country on her business. The list continues. My father, Daniel Asante, supported me later. Nana Yajima the first, Honoree of Asante Asokore, was a great patron of education who contributed 3,000 pounds sterling in those days to the establishment of the Asokore Methodist School, hence the name Impimsadine. My school teachers, S.K.B, Ebenezer Adam from Tamale, J.K. Boafo, the father of Kwame Boafo Esquire, and grandfather of Yao Boafo, the current president of the Ghana Bar Association. I must acknowledge J.S.K.'s special role in my admission to Achimota. He urged me to take the Achimota entrance examination for 2 years, and I was dissuaded by some senior students who thought that it was impossible for somebody to go from a village school to Achimota, not knowing that Achimota welcomed people from all backgrounds. So I could go through my teachers at Achimota, Liberia from Emu, P.J. Rendell, and so forth, students who were my seniors like Seth Owusu. I come to the eminent Edward Akufo-Addo, later Chief Justice and President, who chaired the scholarship board that interviewed me for a law scholarship tenable in the United Kingdom. So my contact with him actually started in 1953. There were my numerous law teachers, Harris Street, J.C. Smith, who will be familiar to most of the lawyers here, and so forth and so on. I could go on and on. But I have something which I call unexpected blessings, and I would like to cite a few of them. I have already mentioned my mother's role in launching my education and J.S. Cover's inspiring advice, which led me to my admission to Achimota with a scholarship. The other examples are winning the scholarship board, law scholarship, which was as a result of an interview by a board chaired by Edward Akufo-Addo. Going to Yale Law School was another divine intervention. There was a conference at Legon on law in Africa in December 1961. The assistant dean of Yale Law School met me and said, well, you've had 2 degrees from English Law School. How about coming to the United States? I said, I would think about that. He offered me forms for application to the school and forms for winning a fellowship. I filled those forms when I was there, when I was told subsequently that I had been admitted to Yale Law School with a fellowship, just like that. Again, my going to the World Bank was a result of a fortuitous intervention of a friend called Samstre. I was exploring the possibility of a job as, of all things, Valco in Ghana. And he said, oh, there's no legal department in Valco, but have you thought of the World Bank? I said, no. He collects my CV, sends it to the management, and I get appointed to the World Bank. B.J. Darocha's recommendation secured my appointment as Solicitor General. When there was a coup d'etat in 1972, my position as Solicitor General was very tenuous, but it was through Ambassador Moses Deborah, who pointed out that I was a civil servant and led to my survival and subsequently my promotion to the position of Deputy Attorney General. Now then, my service with the Judicial Council and the National Peace Council was a result of Otumfuo Setitu II nominated me as a member of the delegation from Ashanti House of Chiefs, the Regional House of Chiefs in Ashanti to the National House of Chiefs. And the National House of Chiefs, under the leadership of Professor Nabila, now Professor Nabila, then elected me to serve in the Judicial Council and also the National Peace Council, and also in the group of experts in the Land Administration Project. My election as President of Ghana Academy of Arts was totally unexpected. Furthermore, there was no election. Can you think of an appointment, an election? There was no campaign, I beg your pardon. Can you think of an election without a campaign in this country these days? I have benefited from many, many advisors. I've mentioned Akufo-Addo, Justice Fred Apaloon, Justice Niyama Olenu, Patrick Henning, Professor Alex Papon, and so forth and so on. I've also benefited from my association with a number of important groups or societies. The National House of Chiefs, the Men's Fellowship Christ Church, the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Ghana Association of Former International Civil Servants, the Ghana Arbitration Center, which I had a hand in founding, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, Schauber Consulting, and S.K.B Asante Technical Vocational Institute in Asokore. I want to acknowledge those who have honored me by writing about me. Stephen Ante, who is an administrative assistant at the Ghana Arbitration Center, he wrote his thesis, MA thesis, on my life. Then Dr. Eugenia Datiba and Dr. Akosua Edu and Barbara Opon, who authored Gavik's book on some outstanding personalities. And we heard the quotation from Dr. Kehinde Olai, a Nigerian scholar based in Hong Kong, who wrote a special article on my contribution to international law and international service when she was stationed in the City University of Hong Kong. In my academic and professional life, I have collaborated with people like Justice Professors S.K.B Asante, Professor Richard Frimpong, Dr. Kwekwadia, Professor Yao Bene, and Kofi Akpable. I'm also grateful to the Ekwana and Suasit family of Asokore, with Busia Penyin, Ba, HM4. I'm particularly indebted to Otumfuo Pokuwa II, Otumfuo Seji II, for their guidance, support in traditional leadership, and for their tremendous contributions to the institution of chieftaincy. Nana Otuesribo Omanhene of Jabin and chairman of the Council of State has been my supporter and brother, an insightful counselor before and during my tenure as a chief. I acknowledge the spiritual counseling of my ministers at Accra Ridge Church, such as the Right Reverend Samson Kweku Jabin, Reverend Ojawo, Reverend Frank Kisi, Right Reverend Samuel Osabite from Jowolu, Right Reverend Natu Brown from Jowolu, Very Reverend Reno Poko from Jowolu, and the Right Reverend Kenneth Otindapa, Bishop of the Fidelity Diocese, Methodist Church, the Reverend Alberto Apia, and Superintendent Minister of the Methodist Church in Asokore, and most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, who has been my counselor. I also acknowledge my fellow worshippers in these churches. Two eminent social anthropologists, the late Professor Myers Fortis of Cambridge and Professor Barbara Ward, formerly of Clare Hall, Cambridge Universities, served as my lifelong mentors and benefactors for over 40 years, and I'm profoundly grateful to them. I have been faithfully and lovingly supported by my children, Adlai Kweku, Amadodu, Joyce Amasewa, Dominic Kofi, Philomena Ama, and Angela Nanakua. Finally, I cannot thank my dear wife, Philomena, well enough. She has endured the burden of my national and international endeavors and has followed me faithfully, often at the expense of her own profession or business, to numerous places around the world. She has been my dedicated partner and an abiding and unfailing source of inspiration for over 60 years. She cannot be with us, but fortunately cannot be with us this evening because she's not been well. But her love has sustained all my endeavors from my student days in London, my academic and professional career in 3 continents, and finally during my retirement, and I dedicate this award to her. We have just celebrated her 90th birthday, 20th July. I have some reflections on law and development. But quite frankly, having listened to the very, very erudite and eloquent speech of her ladyship, I think it would be unnecessary, be superfluous to go through all that. I'll just point out a few things and then conclude. And professional life, I have been preoccupied with the implications of law for development and the relationship between law and other phenomena. This approach does not derive from any abstruse jurisprudential premise, but from the circumstances of my professional experience. If I may echo the words of Oliver Wendell Holmes, the renowned American jurist, quote, "The life of the law is not logic, but experience," quotations close. The popular conception of law, that it is a system of prohibitions against antisocial order, that is a popular conception. But it is rarely seen as an instrument of development. And I have tried to focus during my professional life and academic life on the developmental implications of law beyond the obvious imperatives of law and order. But I tell you that in all the roles that I've played, which have been so eloquently recounted by her ladyship, I realized that law was a key factor of development. Both at the World Bank, the United Nations, in Ghana here as Solicitor General and Deputy Attorney General, in my work as a chief, as chairman of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, and so forth and so on, it's clear that law had a role. Even my involvement in the Constitution of Ghana was actuated by the idea that the Constitution had developmental implications. I have taken the trouble to mention the key aspects of my legal career to demonstrate to law students and interested parties that legal practice is by no means limited to the drama of litigation in court. There is also the exciting field of non-contentious practice involving the structuring, negotiation, drafting, and administration of development agreements or international business transactions, or the drafting of legislation for governance of the country. But having traversed diverse aspects of law and development, or more generally, what are some of my findings or recommendations? I've advocated law reform because our legal heritage, both domestic and international, challenges us to re-examine and restructure our institutions and law to achieve our development goals as well as economic and social justice. At the international level, I've argued for the reform and broadening of traditional concepts of international law to accommodate the interests of developing countries. However, ladies and gentlemen, I've realized that law has its limitations in reforming society. Thus, for example, our attempts to reform our succession and family laws have not been entirely successful because we have not realized that our legislative efforts cannot be effective unless we have carried out in-depth studies of the social and cultural impediments to the introduction of what we perceive as progressive ideas. And also we have launched imaginative education and we have not launched imaginative programs to facilitate the reception of these ideas. A legal system is not a self-executing mechanism. It has to be implemented by human beings in a particular social context. Passing legislation is not enough without a proper social and cultural environment marked by deep-seated religious and cultural views. Similarly, our passionate appeals for an equitable international economic system will have no impact without determined strategies for developing our technical capacity for negotiating and operating international business transactions and the display of impeccable integrity and commitment in performing these tasks. Any lawyer involved in such operations would appreciate the critical relevance of other disciplines such as finance, economics, industrial, or agricultural expertise. This is particularly true of constitutional review. No subject illustrates the difference between constitutional and legislative text and implementation more graphically than the March Canvas proposals for the review of the 1992 Constitution. However, before adverting to the debate, I'll point out some lessons that we can learn from our traditional heritage. In our traditional system, at least in the account system, once a contest for chieftaincy ends with the election, nomination, and installation of a chief in accordance with customary law, no member of the traditional council is excluded from the governance system. Once he swears an oath of allegiance to the new chief, he maintains his position, whether he originally supported the chief as a candidate for the stool or not. There is no majority-minority divide in traditional governance. This is something that we could learn. There are other things, but I don't have too much time. I'll just say a few things about the Constitution and then conclude with my advice to the younger people. As chairman of the committee of experts that formulated proposals for the 1992 Constitution, and as a senior citizen who has been privileged to observe the constitutional order of the country for over 30 years, I have no hesitation whatsoever in extolling the virtues of the Constitution. I noted that your applause was not strong enough. Our Constitution has the most liberal charter of fundamental human rights in our history. Our directive principles of state policy contain every concept of good governance. Ghana's main international reputation as an oasis of stability and constitutionalism in a turbulent region is based on the efficacy of the 1992 Constitution. This reputation has reaped economic benefits, leading to Ghana serving as a preferred investment destination for international enterprises. The Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, has been the most enduring basic law for our country in our history. We have not been called before an international forum to defend our constitutional system. If there are lapses in constitutional conduct, that, in my submission, is not the fault of the Constitution. This does not mean that the Constitution or the operation of the Constitution should not be reviewed. However, respectfully, the expectations of such an exercise should not be exaggerated. Like legislation, the Constitution depends on human beings for its implementation, which may be flawed by virtue of the shortcomings of human actors in the governmental system. I have often said that constitutional review would not necessarily achieve economic takeoff or development. I will go further to submit that constitutional review would not necessarily cure all the ills that plague us in our governmental system, such as corruption. A change of the text of the Constitution would not necessarily result in constitutionalism, because that would not necessarily eliminate any deficit in the constitutional or democratic values of individuals. Constitutionalism, the rule of law and democracy, cannot be achieved by a regime of rigorous constraints alone, but by the inculcation of a culture of restraints and certain core democratic values. I will quote a Nigerian constitutional law to conclude my points. This is what he said. Experience has amply demonstrated that the greatest danger to constitutional government in emergent states arises from the human factor in politics, from the capacity of politicians to distort and vitiate whatever governmental forms may be devised. Institutional forms are, of course, important, since they can guide, for better or worse, the behavior of individuals who operate them. Yet, however carefully institutional forms may have been constructed, in the final analysis, much more will turn on the actual behavior of individuals, upon their willingness to observe the rules, upon a statement's acceptance that the integrity of its procedure should transcend any personal aggrandizement. Quotations close. Now, my concluding remark on the Constitution is that constitutional review or reform international experience demonstrates that crafting the perfect constitution without addressing the basic needs of people would ultimately undermine the stability of the constitutional order. So, I now conclude with the usual advice to the younger generation whenever I give a talk. What do you say to the young people? My advice to the students who are here is as follows. Pursue the sterling and more enduring values of life, not instant acquisition of wealth or instant power or fame. The test of a successful life is its beneficial impact on others in any human endeavor. 2, do not accept limitations. Remember my progression from Asokore to the global village and back. Wholesome ambitions can be achieved by the grace of God and by personal industry and exertions. 3, do not consider a setback or a diversion from your fixed ambition as an impediment to success. Consider setbacks as opportunities for other achievement. I can tell you the story. Before I retired from the United Nations, I was a candidate for 3 times for election to the International Court of Justice. The campaign failed. I've written about it in the book. But when I came back, I found myself doing useful work at the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, at the Judicial Council, at the original Governing Council for Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, membership of the National House of Chiefs, and finally, as Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore. My 4th advice is, above all, count your blessings from God and be mindful of his grace and mercy. Lean on him and do what pleases him, indeed, what will have a beneficial impact on others. With these words of advice to the younger generation, I'd like once again to thank all of you most sincerely for joining me in this grand ceremony, and especially to UPSA Law School for honoring me, and to all the sponsors of this event. Thank you very much. The representatives of Brekum are here. Brekum Traditional Council, and I've been coming acting president of the Brekum Traditional Council is here. It's related to Asokore. The Omahine of Brekum is my traditional nephew, and the chief of Asokore is my younger brother. Thank you.
Well, in his own words, we should do a round of applause. A bigger round of applause. And I respectfully ask that we keep it going as he makes his way to his seat. Nana Oscar S.K.B Asante tonight, as we all stand and accord you your respects, we salute you and we're grateful for your journey through Mother Ghana and the use that God himself has put you to in creating this story that inspires the generations today and the generations after. We salute you once again, sir. God bless you. What is left of the evening is taking memorable photographs with groups of persons who have been listed in our program. Before that, however, I just looked across the hall and I've noticed a great man of the bench who is now enjoying his retirement and contributing to the national discourse. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Atuguba, please put your hands together for him. We salute you, sir. Also, we duly acknowledge the presence of Mr. Jody Mullers, of the Department of Justice of the U.S. Embassy here in Accra. Please put your hands together. We're also grateful for the massive support received from Professor Kweku Malta, who is the Pro Vice Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies and incoming Vice Chancellor after a couple of months. Please put your hands together for him. Tonight we are joined here by great names from the academia, and in that regard, I'd like to pay my respects and give maximum salutes to Professor Lade Wosonu. The Ghana Arbitration Center is one of the great institutions within our legal framework here in Ghana, which can easily be described as brainchilds of this great man. We duly acknowledge our friends from the Ghana Arbitration Center. Please put your hands together for them. Also would like to say a very big thank you to our friends from the UPSA Law School who have joined other students from other law schools for this evening's honorific lecture. Please do a big round of applause for them. At this time, I would like to welcome up here for our note of appreciation Ms. Gertrude Amoko-Ama, who is a lecturer here at the University of Professional Studies. Also a key member of the organizing team of the event. Please welcome her with warm applause.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on all the already existing protocols and use the next 2 minutes to deliver some very brief vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you, and rightly so, to God Almighty, who has showered his blessings on our honoree, Nana Dr. S.K.B Asante, and indeed on all of us. Nana, God bless you. Nyaminsha Obebre, Nyongma Job Opi. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Would also want to say a big thank you to Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you so much, my lady. The Attorney General, Nananum, Nime, Name, all our distinguished personalities who made it here this evening with us to celebrate Nana, Dr. S.K.B Asante. Would like to say a big thank you to the management of the UPSA, the Vice Chancellor, the Chancellor, first of all, Dr. K.K. Sapong, the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, all deans and directors who indeed joined us this evening, and in fact, all staff of the UPSA. I'm truly grateful to all my colleague faculty members, led by our very able Vice Dean, Dr. Francisca Kusiapia, and our Head of Department, Dr. Roland Atakesen, and indeed to all my colleague lecturers who have worked assiduously to make this event a success. I'd want to say a special thank you to our Public Affairs Directorate here at the UPSA, particularly to Mrs. Abaloko, who has been very wonderful in assisting us to have this program this evening. To my protocol team, my team of students who have worked so hard with me this evening, thank you. To all our students who joined us from Achimota, from Accra Academy, and from all the other secondary schools or senior high school institutions, thank you so much for your presence. I believe that you have heard the words of advice that Nana has shared with you, and you are indeed going to act upon them. Thank you so much for coming. To our sponsors, we couldn't have made this without you. We couldn't have gotten this far without you. For want of time, I wouldn't be able to go through all of you because you have been acknowledged severally. But thank you very much. We are too grateful, very grateful to each and everyone here who made it. I'm sorry I was not able to acknowledge each and every one of us, but from the depths of our hearts, we are so grateful. God bless Ghana. God bless all of us. Thank you.